Welcome back. This is Running with Coach Tori.
And Jeff.
And we are here bringing you the running news and running updates for the week. Whether it's for your long run or just so you have something to talk about with your run group, we've got you covered. So, just like last week, I was thinking we could do a couple more celebrity marathons. Unless you have a running update. Any running updates?
No, I did run just 2 miles, twice 2 miles on my treadmill. It's boring as hell. I can't do more than 2 miles right now.
Treadmill's the worst, honestly.
It is.
Yeah,
too cold though to be outside for me.
This week it's going to be warm again, though.
Okay. All right, then maybe I'll run outside.
Sorry, I
did lift too for the first time, and I'm sore all over.
Getting back into like a lifting routine is, I think I talked about this last week actually, like it is one of the hardest things, like being sore and then like having to just like do that again until your body's like not sore all the time. Like, it's just horrible.
Yeah. So that's my only update. I'm sore. So if I'm not moving around much, it's because I'm sore.
Luckily, no one's watching us, so they won't know if you're really hurting or not. So I saw that you have one of these is going to be part of, I think, one of your stories for the day, but I don't know. I'll test your memory to see if you remember the time. So the first celebrity for marathons, because again, we're getting into marathon season. Good luck to everyone who is currently training. Harry Styles. Do you know who Harry Styles is, first of all?
I did know him by name. I couldn't sing a song of his. I do know he's a Grammy Award winner.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you could name a few songs of his, no?
No, honestly, when you said that, I was like, ooh, I mean, I'm sure I know his songs, but at the top of my head, I couldn't name a single one because he's from, was it One Direction? That was like past I was too old for One Direction.
Yeah, and if you were too old for it, you know I am. So yeah, no, I just know his name. I know he's an artist and a famous artist, and Grammy Award winning famous artist. That's as much as I know. And I do believe I know his time. I'm gonna go, well, one, if you'd asked me beforehand, I wouldn't have given him this much credit. I think he's in the 346 range or 336.
What I have here from Runner's World is 324.07.
Okay, no, that's probably accurate. I'm sure Runner's World got it right versus me trying to remember it. Yeah, that's impressive. I certainly that was well beyond the pace I was running. So,
well, he's like 29 or something, so he's like in his long distance prime.
Yeah, I don't know that I was running at that pace even at 29, but okay.
Yeah. All right, Cynthia Erivo. Do you know who that is?
No, I do not.
No, you haven't followed Wicked at all? The Wicked craze? Come on.
Okay, no, I saw a little bit of the Grammys. I did see Wicked. I wouldn't have. I again didn't know her name. But yeah, okay. Now I do know who she is then.
Yeah, I kind of feel like you would have been dragged to watch Wicked. No, Reagan's not into Wicked.
No, she is not.
Oh, okay. Well,
I saw Wicked on Broadway like 10 years ago.
Okay.
It wasn't really for me though.
Oh.
Okay.
So,
yeah,
Defying Gravity? That's not one of your like running pump up songs? No? Crazy.
No, I'll try it though.
It's a good one, honestly, I will say. I've listened to, and it was like the Glee cover version of it. I'm making myself sound like such a loser. But anyway, so Cynthia Erivo, what do you think she runs? Well, I don't know when this even was that she ran this time.
Let's see. I'm going to say she's Harry Styles plus 30 minutes. So I'm going to go 3:54.
Wow, 3:57.07. That was your closest yet. Impressive.
Wow,
okay.
that was a complete guess.
Colin Farrell, do you know who that is?
I do know who Colin Farrell is. Actor, very good actor.
I couldn't think of anything he's in.
Not Will Ferrell. Don't confuse him with Will Ferrell. No.
Who's also run a marathon.
I didn't know that, but Colin Farrell, again, strikes me as a pretty, good actor. Plays a lot of different roles. Seems like he's a fit guy. But I'm going to go 4:10.
Pretty close. 3:53.
Okay.
All right. And the last one we have is Ellie Kemper. Do you know who that is?
I'm embarrassed to say I do not. Yeah, I don't know a lot of celebrities and maybe their name. I might have seen them in something and would recognize them, but I don't necessarily know them by name. That's my excuse.
Did you ever watch The Office?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's Erin from The Office who
Okay.
takes over. Yeah, you know who Erin is. So that's who she is.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and what do you think her best?
Um, Again, relatively young, so I'm gonna go Harry plus an hour, so I'm gonna go 424.
On here it says 5:17:39.
Okay. Again, she
So
gets a lot
there's
of
that.
credit. Just moving your body for 5 hours is not easy.
No, no, I wouldn't want to do it.
No, it hurts. I
Um,
mean, we all know it hurts at the halfway point, and when you still got now 2+ hours left of that pain, it is not fun.
yeah, no, I can't even. Doesn't sound fun to me right now. All right, that's all I have for this week. Well, maybe we'll do it again next week. Maybe we'll find a different, intro game. But do you want to get started on your stories then, since we are on the whole celebrity marathon
Yeah.
dealio?
Yeah. So speaking of marathons, so the first marathon major of the year happened this past weekend. That was the Tokyo Marathon. And I would say it was, I mean, again, from an American's perspective, unremarkable. The times were, for men, 2:03, which is incredible, by the way. Um, and for women, 2:16, also amazing. Other than the world records, I think now 2:09 something. Um, so again, it's just not set up to be. I don't think it's a course that's set up for world record type pace. Very similar to Boston, right? From a standpoint
Right.
of it's Boston's not a marathon that someone's going to run and break a world record in, typically speaking. Um, so it was dominated by Ethiopia and Kenya. Again, no surprise there. Top American, I think men was in the 60th category, and women 42nd.
Oh
So
wow.
what's that?
I just said, oh wow.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I think it's dominated by Ethiopia, Kenyans, and because it's the Tokyo Marathon, a lot of Japanese as well. So I did watch. I can't say I watched the whole thing. I watched highlights, um, but it's not one that was set up to be a world record one. So again, great for them. And next up on the list is Boston. And that's on April 22nd. It's also followed by London like a week later, which I think has been the way it's almost always set up.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah. So it's obviously the elite athletes. You do one or the other, and I
Right.
think London is set up to be much more of a faster course
Mm-hmm.
than Boston. Boston's hilly, so as you know, it's not the greatest of times that people have. Right, Ilya
Right.
Kipchoge, I think he ran it. He didn't run it too often, but he ran it, I think, 2 years ago, maybe a year ago, and didn't fare well. Now again, end of his career, so I won't say that
Right.
necessarily the course versus age because there was a lot of marathons that in the very end, it's been very difficult. So
Have
that's
you run
really it.
any?
What's that?
I said, have you run any of the marathon majors? You did New York
I
City?
I have yeah, New York City. I've run New York City. That was the first marathon I did way back when. So what the marathon majors, right? You got Tokyo. So in I guess sequential order this year, right? Is Tokyo was this past weekend, Boston I mentioned, and London in April, and then you sort of jump to the fall. Sydney is in late August, Berlin late September, Chicago late October, and New York City is early November. So I did do New York City back in 1993, and I'm embarrassed to say that. That's a long time ago. And I had a very similar time to one of your celebrities you just mentioned was I think 5 hours plus, and I think I've mentioned before I had a great first half marathon, fantastic, but terrible hydration, terrible nutrition, and second half is as I've experienced many times because that's been my sort of mantra every time as I do a great first half and not a great second half.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It'll get you.
it'll get you. Yeah, and I think I've mentioned before, like there were people. it was what 30,000 runners, so probably I don't know 15,000 runners passed me in the second half, including people wearing wedding dresses and stuff like that. It's like, all of those people that we were talking about that wear like
Right.
costumes and stuff. I saw them all. That's not fun. It's very demotivating.
No, getting passed by like groups is just demoralizing in general, right? Because then that's when you start getting in your head of like, I'm not gonna ever get there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, it seems pretty far away when someone's running by in a bear costume. It's like, come on, man.
Like they're just here having fun and I'm hurting.
Yeah, I even stopped at the aid station to try to get some like Advil, and they were like, "We're out. Like we were out like 2 hours ago." Like, oh, thank you. That's
Oh
great.
no. Oh no.
So yeah, I don't know if there's any great news there, but from the standpoint of it is one of the majors. It's and I'm sure a great marathon, but not one that really excites me tremendously.
No. Yeah, I mean, we just had in the running group that I guess I'm still technically a part of, but like don't I haven't run with them in a long time, but
Well,
one of
by
the
the way, they
girls
don't think you're part of the group anymore. You're out.
I mean probably, right? I don't host any of the runs anymore, but one of the girls just got her sixth star
Okay.
or like is there seven now? There's seven now, right?
Yeah,
Because of
there's seven.
Sydney.
Yeah, seven majors. Yep.
Okay, so she's done all of them except for I guess now Sydney, but it was like a huge deal and everyone was like, making a fuss that she just finished Tokyo over the, last weekend. Like that
Oh,
is definitely
that's impressive.
commitment as a pedestrian runner to like travel to all those places.
Yeah, because it's not. Some of them are not easy to get into either.
Right.
Yeah, so either you've got to get lucky with the lottery, or I mean, I think you can also raise funds for charities and stuff like that to get in, or buy a package that it's very expensive. So there's ways
Right.
to get in other than lottery, but it's some of them are not easy to get into.
No, for sure.
Yeah, I think it was
Someday maybe.
37,000 runners in Tokyo, somewhere in that range.
Wow.
A lot.
Yeah. A lot.
Yeah.
All right. What else you got? More
All right.
marathon news?
Any other marathon news? No, I don't have any other marathon news. I did see some. So I can't let this Grant Fisher thing go.
Oh yeah.
So I was watching, so as I said before, I was going to watch all of the world record runs, and there were no world records as far as I could tell this past week. So that's at least quieted down a little bit. But yeah, I was watching an interview with Grant Fisher after his 5,000-meter world record run, and he mentioned bicarb. I guess the interviewer just said, "So were you using bicarb during the run?" And he said, "Yeah, I used it for the last, these last two world records." I'm like, "What is bicarb?" I don't know
Right.
whether you've heard of bicarb before, and I'm like,
Mm-mm.
wow, I'm really out of it. So I did look it up, and what bicarb is baking soda. It's sodium bicarbonate, baking soda.
Oh, okay. I have heard this. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So see, it's like celebrities where I don't actually recognize it until you give me the common names or
Yeah.
reference the movie that they were in. Um, so yes, so baking soda has been studied and shown to provide benefits. And I guess I'll go to maybe one of the sites to give you sort of like how it works, right? So what happens when you run hard? Your body produces energy without oxygen. It's anaerobic metabolites or metabolism. This process creates a byproduct called lactate, and along with it, hydrogen ions. Hydrogen ions make your muscles more acidic, throwing your pH levels out of whack. That acid builds up, leading to the, holy crap, my legs are on fire. And what bicarb does, it comes in by loading up the sodium bicarbonate before the workout. You're essentially giving your body extra reserve of alkaline power. The bicarb buffers the hydrogen ion buildup. Now, it only works for a short period of time. So basically, anywhere from 45 seconds to 8 minutes is sort of where the studies show there's benefits. But that's relatively short. Certainly for a marathon, that's not going to really provide you any real benefits. But for a 5K, 3K, for 3K, definitely. 5K is probably a little bit outside that range. 400 meters, 800 meters, a lot of those, middle distances, would benefit from this bicarb. So there's a lot of elite athletes that are using bicarb, and unfortunately, one of the side effects of bicarb is an upset stomach. So it
Yeah.
can, and which is why maybe, and it's not been. This isn't new. It's as I was researching this, it looked like it's been around for 20 years, but it's really kind of taken off a little bit more recently. Um, with, again, the side effects being GI distress, too much sodium in your diet that can cause sort of like if you're looking for a low sodium diet, there's high sodium in bicarb. And GI distress is, bloating, but unfortunately also diarrhea. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not something that anyone wants while they're running distances. So,
No.
so for that reason, it hasn't been sort of widely utilized. There is a company out there that is sort of marketing a bit that it's got, it's got sort of, I think it's Martins is the name of the company. It's a
Mm-hmm.
Swedish company, and basically it's sort of got a formulation that sort of doesn't break down necessarily in the stomach. It goes to small intestines, and that avoids some of the GI tract issues. So again, I think Grant Fisher mentioned it. What I saw on social media was like people saying, "Oh, I wish these guys would just run clean," and that sort of struck me as being, "Oh, I don't know, man. Is using baking soda like not running clean? Like, is it any different than like caffeine? People use caffeine to, wake their body up and wake their central nervous system up, and get ready for an athletic performance. I don't see it as any different. I don't know whether you see it as sort of cheating in some way. And I even listened to another podcast, the one I listened to with Kara Goucher
Mm-hmm.
and Des Linden. They were talking about it, and they also sort of gave it a little bit of a taint, like, "Oh, I'm surprised that Grant Fisher mentioned it. I'm sort of proud that he would talk about it openly." I'm like, why is this a dirty secret? Why is using baking soda almost viewed like cheating? I didn't get it, but maybe you see it differently.
No. Well, no. How much do you have to take? Like, what was did you say, like a serving size that you would need?
Yeah, well, it's relatively, and it's 3 grams per kilogram of body weight.
That's a lot.
So point. Sorry, did I say 0.3 grams? I said point. It should be point 0.3.
Okay, I was like,
So for everyone out there who just overdosed on baking soda.
ah.
And by the way, I'm not a doctor. I'm not recommending you do this. I'm saying don't do it. Just focus on the 99%, which is good sleep, good exercise program, all of the things you can do that are going to help you. For anyone else listening, for the most part, unless you're doing that 99% right, this is not going to really help you, other than give you a GI problem.
Right. Well, I mean, it is definitely yucky. But that aside, no, and I've seen like this wasn't even like oh, this is an elite athlete secret thing. Like, I don't think anyone's gatekeeping this idea. So I'm also surprised that it was talked about as like, I can't believe he said that. Cause I've seen, especially in the past year, like other, influencery internet running coaches talking about it as like an option or an alternative. I believe even in the USCA running coach certification, and I could be so wrong, and I'm so sorry if I am, like that's part of like the training material is like options for fueling and things that you're allowed to like recommend as a running coach. And again, if I'm wrong, retract it, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
But I mean,
We're just riffing here on a podcast.
yeah, point being, I've seen it in many places from people who are not coaching only elite athletes. It's not like it was in the like win at all costs documentary, right? um so yeah, so I don't think anything of this besides like wouldn't be me because that seems gross. And also, like, what race would I be running that, again, 8 minutes of performance benefit is going to help me in any sense? But yeah, like, I've seen it recommended as even just like long run fuel as like an option, like to put in, like, if you're making an electrolyte drink from home and stuff, like things to try. So yeah, I don't see it as like a cheat or not being clean. Before you said that, Kara Goucher and Des Linden were talking about it that way, I was assuming that people were misinterpreting social media comments as just like irrelevant to the bicarb thing, and people just always assuming anyone who's running well is cheating. So like I just thought that was taken out of context, that people are just saying like, oh, why can't you just do things clean, blah blah blah. But everyone's got
Yeah,
to be a
no,
troll. But
yeah.
yeah, since they mentioned it specifically, then I guess that is kind of an opinion that people are having. Yeah, I don't see it as such. I wouldn't want to do that. But also, again, it's like, what what classifies as cheating to everyone. It's like the super shoes thing. It's like everyone's able to get them, right? That was like the whole problem before, was like it was a thing that people couldn't technology everyone couldn't have. So I get the gray area there, but it's like they're easily accessible now. Baking soda, everyone can buy it at the store. It's super cheap. You probably have it at your house. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, and it's like a natural, like, we get what it's doing, right? You're not like injecting hormones that aren't your, I don't know. Yeah, I guess it's hard. Because like
Yeah,
who's
I
the
didn't
tennis?
think that. Yeah,
Oh,
I
go
guess
ahead.
I didn't think it that was be that hard though. From the standpoint of it, I mean, it. I just don't see it as any different than okay, you fuel up with food, you hydrate with water, you drink your coffee. If you want to take some baking soda, again, it's a stuff that everyone has access to. It's as you said, right? There is studies on it that does show it. I really did think it was maybe started by the baking soda industry when I first saw it. I'm like, what? This is like when they came up with the idea of putting it in your refrigerator. They doubled the
Right,
sales of baking soda. Um,
right.
so yeah, but it there is research on it, and it does feel like it is real. Now, there's also placebo effect, so it's hard to say how much. But there was some blind studies done on it, so I think the benefits are real. It's just a question of whether the detriments are worth it. And as I said before, for 99% of us, unless you're a super elite athlete looking for that 1%, I can't imagine. And you're running those specific things, maybe 800 meters to 3,000. You know, there are so many other things you can do that's going to benefit you way more than doing baking soda. Uh,
Right.
so anyway, it just felt like a debate that was being had that I didn't even know about until I heard him reference it. And then once you start searching, it's like, wow, this is actually out there. And there's a lot of people with opinions on this.
Right. Yeah, I mean, my thing is like, if, you know, a rule, right? I'm very rule focused. So like, fine, if everyone's going to be all in a panic about baking soda, say you can't do it anymore, and then that's a thing that everyone's like looking out for, right? Like, I don't know. It just doesn't seem necessary, or who cares, you know? I
Yeah,
don't
I can't imagine you could ban baking soda because I don't know that it would. I mean, would it show up in your system
know. I was
as
just
being
thinking
out of
that.
whack? I mean, could you really test that anyway?
Right.
So
Yeah, you're like metabolizing it pretty quickly. So who knows? I don't know. Well, give it a try, everybody, and let us know in
no,
a
we're not
review.
recommending trying it. No,
Oh,
stop.
oh no. Just kidding. Don't. But if you do try it, or you have tried it, please write us a review,
Yeah.
five-star review, and say how it was.
Yeah, no, actually, yeah, and research it. There's a lot online about it. There are companies that make it. There are a number. I wouldn't suggest just using baking soda. I'm sure you
Yeah,
can.
gross.
There's a number of people who sell the supplements, and then there are companies who, if you want to spend 5 times more, you can get the stuff from Martins. And I'm sure I'm pronouncing that slightly incorrectly as a being a Swedish company. Last thing I had on my list was, I guess, in that same, since we talked about Yarad Nuguse, he did try to break the world record in the mile. Actually, again, just for the backtracking here, he broke the indoor world record in the mile. 5 days later, Jakob Ingebrigtsen broke his record. Um, so Yard Nuguse this past weekend in Boston tried to re-break the record, but did fail. And again, fail feels like the wrong way to say that, but yeah, he did not break the record. Um, I did watch that one, so I'm now watching record-breaking and almost record-breaking runs. He was close. He was within a second, if that
Yeah.
you consider that close. I mean, what I think is crazy now is they have those. I'm sure you've seen the track events where they have the world record in lights along the track on the inside, running along with the individual. So you can see right what the pace is. I mean, they have pacers for the first half as well. He did, and Grant Fisher did. But those lights, certainly you can tell, which I think as a fan is great. You can see right where they are versus the world record. And he fell behind right about the halfway point. I mean, they were on it for the first half, but right after that, it sort of started to get away from him. And again, he was within a second, so it wasn't far ahead of him. but you could tell that it wasn't going to happen. He would have had to really have sprinted the last 2 laps to sort of come up with the record. So it was interesting. I do like these world record chases, so I'm
Hmm.
going to give Yarad Nuguse credit, and I'll try to keep updating people on on that track.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it maybe 2 weeks ago at this point, but it definitely does make it fun, right? To see people going back and forth, like even, like he's so close, you can see it on there now as like a viewer, right? So I do think that makes it way more fun and like give people a reason to tune in. Just like, I mean, the Super Bowl, right? People who never watch football come in to watch the Super Bowl because it's like, the best of the best. So it's like
Yeah,
we're now getting that just a mid-season. It's not like we have to wait for track and field at the Olympics because I do think people get excited about track and field at the Olympics as well, even like non runners, non watchers, right? But it's like, oh, there's actually really other exciting things happening currently. So hopefully that is at least interesting to people.
yeah. So in addition to Grant Fisher giving Bicarb credit for his world record, he also gave Jakob Ingebrigtsen credit too for pushing the sport. So I don't know whether you're a fan of him or not. He's not like Noel Lyles. He's not quite like that, but he is a little bit, outlandish. Like in the track, he'll be waving his hands as he's coming into the finish line and stuff, which I think is good for the sport. And he what he's done is from a racing standpoint, he has pushed the pace to say, well, I'm going to go after records. I'm going to push the pace the whole way. Or in some cases, he started out in the back and really pushed the pace in the second half of a race. So he's done some different things, and again, Grant gave him kind of credit for kind of pushing the sport a bit to sort of push for those records. So I just thought I'd mention that as well. Just one of the things Grant mentioned.
Yeah, well, excuse me. He's an incredible athlete, like it's undeniable. And I feel like he's been good for some time now. I feel like I've heard his name, not just like a recent thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, certainly for 4 years or more, he's been top of the sport.
Yeah. So no, I mean I definitely think he's incredible and it's always fun to see people go out of what you think their comfort zone is. Like I think it was sometime fall, winter, he ran a half marathon, I think, and like didn't do so hot, you know.
Oh, I didn't
Um,
see that.
so yeah, I don't even remember like how it where what race it was or how it went or any of those things, but yeah, I know he struggled a little bit, and it's just kind of always fun to see athletes testing their boundaries as well. And was it and I'm like the worst with facts here, but maybe it was the Olympics when Cole Hawker won, and you see him move to the outside. And I think we talked about that with Grant Fisher. I think you talked about how nobody, right? No, he's running on the outside of people. Nobody's moving. He's coming, and that was a nice thing to see. Is like as much as he's an incredible athlete and competitive, right? But like you also understand the sport. You can't. He's coming up on you. You're not matching that pace. You're moving out of the way so he gets the gold. So always respect people who have good sportsmanship as well.
Yeah, yeah. Again, I respect exactly what he's done, what he does, and I'm becoming a fan. He's grown on me. I wasn't a fan probably 2 or 3 years ago. I certainly wasn't rooting for him in the Olympics against the Americans and Josh Kerr, I guess, which is British.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm becoming a fan.
Oh wow. Jakob's got a new fan.
Yes.
Years later. Um, all right, well, if that's all you got, I do have a couple things, especially on the, the same theme as doping with baking soda. I have an article here. The first step to running more, buy a rice cooker. So we're talking fueling. Do you have a rice cooker?
I do not have a rice cooker.
Have you
I do
used a
eat
rice?
rice, but I don't have a rice cooker.
Yeah, you do eat a lot of rice, right?
I do.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so basically, you got your giant rice cooker, easy to actually I was talking about a rice cooker yesterday when we were on a play date. But I've never used one. I don't really understand the point. Um, but yeah, basically eat your rice, you are going to be a better runner per the article.
Yeah,
And
can you help me a little bit? Like, what is a rice cooker versus? Because I've not owned one. I've not used a rice cooker. What's a rice cooker versus just cooking rice?
yeah, literally we had this conversation yesterday. So again, as someone who like does not have one, it's kind of like the same idea of like a crock pot, right? You get to put stuff in, it cooks on its own time, and then like it stays good for you. Whereas like if you do your rice on the stove, you have to like be present to like check on your rice and turn it off so it's not burnt and whatever. So I think it's kind of just the same idea of like you throw your water in, you throw your rice in, you set the thing, and then your rice will be ready when your run's done.
Okay, yeah, because rice is probably. I mean, I know it is. It can come out very mushy, and you can get, it basically creates the environment to get consistent, perfectly done rice. Hopefully
Right.
every time. Okay, I got it.
Right. And again, like I think it can be a little more flexible on the timing. If like you're going out on your run, you can start your rice. So, and rice is a good, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of rice just because I don't love it. And usually I'm looking for like a higher fiber content, but rice is a quick carb and that is good for your runs, even like to fuel before a run. I know a lot of people run in the morning and it might be a little hard to eat rice first thing in the morning, but worth a try. Definitely for fueling your runs. What do you eat before a run if it's not rice?
I'm an oatmeal guy. I like
Okay.
oatmeal. Yeah, I mean, very similar vein, I would say. It's
Mm-hmm.
you know very carb heavy, filling. It does stick with me for a good part of a long run. So yeah, so that's the one that's my go-to move is oatmeal, and I usually have a little bit of raisins and nuts in it. So that's
You,
my go-to move.
do you know who else is an oatmeal fan before a run?
Ilya Kipchoge
Yeah.
as my guess. Is that right?
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, all right, there we go.
Yep. I
We have a
forget
lot
what.
in common. It's not marathoning, but it's
Yeah.
oatmeal.
Yeah, I remember reading that interview he did a couple years ago saying like that's what he does before a run. And I was like, I gotta buy oatmeal. I'm like, I can't. I hate oatmeal.
Really? Ah, how
Yeah.
do you hate oatmeal, man? You're a hater.
I don't know what happened to me, but like it's a texture thing. I just have a hard time with it.
It's so flexible. You can do anything with oatmeal. You can put a little bit of cream in it with some Nestle's Quick. For anyone who likes Nestle's Quick, you can make it chocolate. You can put fruits and nuts in it. It make it sweet. It's good. Very flexible.
I know, and I definitely advocate for oatmeal. I'm also big on telling people to do like, peanut butter sandwich, bagel with peanut butter, any of those kinds of things before run, but the oatmeal I can't do it. I'm a sandwich kind of person, peanut butter sandwich or toast,
Okay.
you know. And then what else do I have? I feel like I'm always just clowning on these articles. I apologize to any of these people. I'm not a journalist and you are, so what do I know? Um, 9 running shoes for beginners who just want to get moving. Now, the only reason I find this kind of silly is like, what's a beginner sneaker? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Are these are running shoes? These aren't like the really flat like basketball type shoes, Pro Keds, whatever they were called.
So it's a bunch of running shoes. The
Okay, so at
best
least they're running
overall.
shoes. Okay.
Yeah,
Are they at
best.
least less expensive running shoes, hopefully?
Nope, nope.
Oh, why would you buy expensive beginner running shoes?
Exactly. And so here's my issue before I go into the list. If I even, I might not even go into the list. But so my thing is, I think a lot of new runners, especially, go like heavy cushion because you want them to be comfy. You're thinking, I want heavy cushion. A lot of the times we're getting those like tall heel drop, right? So you're getting a shoe that's already correcting in quotes issues you might not even have because you didn't start running. And so most of the shoes on these lists, and it'll be linked in here if you guys like want to actually read the list because I'm not gonna go through all of them, but um, they're like more serious runner shoes. They're definitely more maximalist if they're definitely not minimalist running shoes, but in my opinion, if you're a beginner runner and you're not used to a specific shoe, a specific gait, a specific anything, why not go for the most minimalist shoe? You're going to build up your foot strength, your ankle strength, your calf strength. You're not going to get stuck in needing that extra heel support. You're not going to need, be rolling your feet all over and having, things that are just getting all wonky. And, I definitely steer more towards the whole like born to run idea of shoes. Yeah, I know you're gonna, yep, born to run of shoes of like, I'm definitely not running around barefoot most of the time, but you want your feet to have like a natural gait. You talk to most PTs and there's definitely PTs who have different ideas, physical therapists, right? But a lot of them who especially work with runners or people who want to just like maximize their body movement in a natural way, like they are steering people more towards those flatter shoes that have a zero drop. They also are looking for those wide toe boxes so your toes can actually spread out and move instead of losing like that flexibility in your feet, losing like the sensitivity in your feet. So um it's kind of silly to have like a beginner shoe list, in my opinion. But if you are thinking of a beginner shoe, I would be thinking something that's less like already doing too much, right? You're not going to be like, get this crazy supportive arch thing that's doing all this stuff that you don't even know if that's what you would need on a run. You know what I mean?
I do, and you just killed our negotiations with Nike for the sponsorship of the show.
Right.
How's
Yeah.
Nike going to
Sorry.
make a living selling shoes if we're not recommending buying the most expensive shoes from Nike?
I know ultra come my way though because I am a religious ultra wearer, but yeah, yikes! I know I was just like running shoe companies are garbage.
Yeah, yes. You
Ew.
don't need them. Just go barefoot. That's not selling shoes.
Right? Yeah, go buy some sandals, make them out of tires. Um, Yikes! Yeah. Um,
Well, I'm with you though. Again, there's a lot of options out there for shoes as a beginner. Like, yeah, I mean, again, the shoe companies certainly are marketing shoes, and there may be some benefits to the cushioning, but I don't know that every runner needs them. And unless you start out with, as you're suggesting, right, is go a little bit more minimalist and don't buy the high end shoes right away. Um, try it. You'll find what you like. I ended up liking Saucony, and I wore the same brand and shoe, like the same version, the 2019 version, up until this past year where I couldn't get them anymore.
right.
Yeah.
No, and what
Well,
you
I
said
also
about
had knee issues.
yeah, but I mean, but that's the thing too, right? Like you said, like before when I was still going on my rant, right? Like, was it a cheap shoe? And like that's another thing too is, especially if you don't know how your body feels running and you're not sure, like, am I going to be running on trails? Am I going to be running on the road? Am I going to go to a track to run? Like, am I going to run on my treadmill? You're really not even sure what you're doing yet as a beginner with all of those things. Like going out and buying a shoe that, and running stores are often amazing and they help you pick out a great shoe for you. But if you don't really know what feels like what and where you're going to be, it's hard to pick. You're not like an informed consumer yet. You know what I mean? And so spending 120 plus dollars on a shoe that in maybe a month after getting started on your running journey you actually don't like and it's not serving you, it doesn't really make sense. And I think if you have a pair of sneakers that's at least like an actual sneaker to some extent, like that can be great. And we talked about jeffing last week, right? If you're doing that run, walk, run a bunch, I don't think you need any crazy shoe yet. I mean, the guy ran a marathon in Crocs. He hurt his feet, but that's a marathon. It's different than running, like half a mile between running and walking, right? Like I'll sometimes run our dog down the street in my Uggs or my Crocs or whatever. You know what I mean? And it's like not always the best idea, but to get started, it's not a bad idea until you know what you need, you know?
Yeah, no, great. And I think your recommendation for like running stores is great from a standpoint
Yeah.
of they do know what they're doing. So if you do have like a way that you're running, pronating, they will identify it, and there are shoes. And again, they don't have to be the highest end shoe to address your particular issue. So again, I think running stores are great. They can certainly recommend shoes in all categories. If you want to spend top dollar and then you can afford it, that's great. But they also recommend, and they will also steer you towards a shoe that's probably good for you. It doesn't necessarily have to be a high end shoe.
Exactly. So go support your local running store until you find the shoe brand that you like, and then go online and buy 100 pairs of the ones you like because, like you said, they're going to run out of the 2019 version of the
Yep.
Saucony whatevers, and then you're going to be screwed. So,
Yeah. No, that's a great advice right there. That was worth it right there. People listen for 40 minutes, and that's what you got right there, that
Yeah.
gem.
Best advice on running shoes. All right. Well, I think that's all I got. If that's all you got,
That's all I got.
yeah, I got to get ready to go do my run. I'm not even, I don't know what I feel like running today. If I'm going to do kilometer repeats or if I'm just going to do an easy run. I'm supposed to be going to look for a skunk today. That was my assignment, is to find a nocturnal animal on my run.
Good
So,
luck.
okay, sure. So yeah, I'm not sure where I'll look for that, but that is my dilemma for the rest of my workout.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, we'll see you all next week. Bye.